Hello and welcome to a Week 14 edition of the Bleacher Report Fantasy Football Show. My name is Adam Levitan, as always joined by Michael Leone for the final week in many of your leagues of the fantasy football regular season. If you're tuned in here, I assume you're still alive in your league and battling. Shout out to you. Leone, happy Week 14. How's it going?
It's going well. Happy week 14 to you as well.
On today's show, we're going to go over some sneaky starts here ahead of week 14. Some guys that maybe a little bit off the radar. You're scraping on the wire. There are four teams on a bye this week, which I don't appreciate whatsoever, but this is the way the NFL set up the schedule. And it is what it is. Also, happy to answer as many questions as we can from the chat. If you do have questions and you're a normal human, go ahead and put them in to the chat. We'll get to as many as we can. Let's start with our first sneaky start of the week, Leone, and it comes in tonight's game. No Sam Laporta, no Brock Wright. We're tentatively expecting Amon-Ra to be inactive tonight, although we don't know that for sure yet. And you're playing Dallas. What you are left with is Jameson Williams, who has never been like a target earning, load bearing kind of receiver. Tom Kennedy and Isaac Tesla, the very exciting athletic rookie who has struggled to earn targets. So if you just look at the game log on Tesla, Leone, you see he scores a lot of touchdowns, but doesn't earn a lot of volume. There is a chance they're going to need a lot more out of him tonight. How do you think this goes tonight for Lions receivers and Tesla?
It's definitely difficult to parse the Lions receivers. There's some uncertainty as far as how much volume can Jameson Williams earn as a number one. He's not really a true volume earner, which means you're going to have to see these ancillary targets get really spread out in a big way, whether it's Tom Kennedy, Tesla, or even Dwelly at tight end. And then, more targets to the running backs as well. We're also expecting Detroit to run the ball a little bit more than they have been, especially since Dan Campbell's taken over the play calling duties. They've been a little pass heavier. But I mean, ultimately, this is a team with a 29 team total. It's the second highest on the week, despite all the injuries that they have at home. It's a really high game total in general because Dallas is expected to put up points with how efficient their passing offense has been and kind of how boom or bust the Detroit pass defense has been. So I think it's worth a gamble that Tesla is going to see more volume, maybe get some more gimme targets. We already know he's got the deep roll. His 8 out on the season's 15.8. You mentioned the 3 touchdowns he's caught this year. So I think at worst case, you've got a good boom or bust candidate to possibly score a touchdown in a really high total game. And then best case, he does earn more volume. They use him as a big slot a little bit more. And, then you're really happy with playing him.
Who would you play between Tesla and Kennedy if you had the choice between these two guys?
Yeah, I would go with Tesla. I mean, you got to live a little, right?
Yes.
I think when it's this uncertain, I'd rather take the wide receiver with a bit more of an athletic profile who's
Yes.
younger, as opposed to the vet where, maybe on median, Kennedy gets there, catches more balls. But if there's someone that just randomly went for 102, it's not going to be Tom Kennedy.
Yeah, dude, we can't be a coward here. It's got to be Tesla. Going back to the preseason, Tesla was doing this. This is not like some new thing. The Lions went up in the draft way before he was supposed to be drafted. They love him. In the preseason, he was dominant, scoring touchdowns, and he's done so on his limited chances in the regular season. So I actually like playing him tonight. Is there a co-pilot question here? Because this is one of the most best matchups for wide receivers here this season.
Yeah, we are in lockstep with the co-pilot this week, Adam, because ask co-pilot what are some of the best fantasy matchups in week 14. One of the answers that co-pilot gave was Isaac Tesla, and noting the significant target share potential if Amon-Ra sits, which we just covered in number one. And then our number two sneaky starts, the Commanders defense, which co-pilot also notes as an excellent streaming option. Minnesota allowing the most fantasy points to opposing DSTs this season. Really high turnover and sack rate for the Vikings. So we are in lockstep with the co-pilot with these two matchups that are two of the strongest
Yeah.
in week 14.
I want to be clear. I think Commanders defense really lacks talent. I mean, they have a lot of problems on defense, but this JJ McCarthy situation, man, I mean, it has gotten so rough right now. I'm willing to play any defense against Minnesota. Sack rate, turnover rate, pick six chances, strip sack chances. If this was like any other quarterback, I would just be like, nah, I don't think so on Commanders defense. But against McCarthy, there's just so many ways that Commanders defense can score points. So, any hope for you this weekend on McCarthy actually doing anything positive against the Commanders, Leone?
I mean, he could. Their defense we have is kind of weak in terms of yards per attempt allowed and some of the passing efficiency stuff. But ultimately, in his starts this year, in 4 out of his 6 starts, he's had a sack rate of 13% or higher, which is kind of insane. He's got an interception rate of 6.3%, I believe it is on the season. Yeah, 6.3%. And that's consistent. His lowest, he's thrown at least one INT in every single game. He's thrown multiple INTs in 4 out of 6 games. So at a certain point, the quarterback has a little bit more control over things than the opposing defense. The key here for the Commanders is if they can get ahead and force JJ McCarthy to drop back, they're going to put up a solid score, almost undoubtedly. Where it could go wrong is if Minnesota is able to be efficient early and just play from a positive game script.
All right. Let's get some questions from the people, as we are, of course, men of the people. Jonathan Costello says Devin Singletary or Tyrone Tracy for the playoffs. So Tyrone Tracy hurt his hip last week. They're on a bye here. So we do not have any information on how severe Tyrone Tracy's hip injury is. I preferred Tracy, and I think the Giants preferred Tracy slightly, if not for the injury. Given what we know now, though, if I had to drop one, I would probably drop Tracy just because we don't know the status of his injury. So, yeah, I don't think that we're going to know there just because reporters, I know for a fact, my friend Jordan Ronan, who covers the Giants, is on vacation right now because it's their bye week. So, yeah, so I don't think we're going to get any information on Tyrone Tracy.
The Jordan Run name drop.
I flew him up for being on vacation. All right. Noah says Hampton, David Montgomery, or Trey Benson this week. So Trey Benson's probably going to be out again. Has not practiced. Seemed like he had an aggravation there of his knee injury. Amari Hampton, I do expect to play, but he is going to share time with Kimani Vidal. So it's David Montgomery sharing time with Gibbs or Hampton sharing time with Vidal. Any thoughts on that one, Leone?
I like Montgomery. We mentioned the team total for Detroit already, highest on the entire week. And I think we could see more multiple running back looks for Montgomery. It's always key for them to get a lead because he's the second back in the rotation. And when he's going to get more playing time, it's when Detroit's playing from ahead. So there's some risk there. But I'd rather take him on this really high team total than take a shot at this backfield for the Chargers. Hampton wasn't super efficient before he got hurt. There's been some really positive coach speak around Kimani Vidal as well. The matchup against the Eagles is worse than the Lions matchup against the Cowboys. So I'll go Montgomery.
Okay, yeah. Speaking of Montgomery, we got another Montgomery question: Charbonnet or Montgomery in full PPR. This is the first playoff week, so Kenneth Walker's role is and was growing, but again, Charbonnet got the touchdown here last week. I kind of see it a bit similarly. You could see Charbonnet maybe getting some more goal line chances than Montgomery. But yeah, what do you think here, Leone Charbonnet or Demont this week
I'm
for
still
Daniel?
Demont here. I think it's a really good spot for him. I would fire him up in a lot of these leagues where it's close.
Los Mesa 99 says Chargers say Justin Herbert will start on Monday. How comfortable are you guys with starting him? So this is a non-throwing left wrist injury for Justin Herbert. He might not be able to be under center. That's not great for the run game. I think that is okay for the passing game. They're facing the Eagles, which is not the best possible matchup, but Eagles won't have Jalen Carter, which I do think matters here in this spot. Leone, what do you think about the question from Los Mesa? How comfortable are you with Justin Herbert on Monday night?
Yeah, I mean, we don't have a very optimistic projection on Herbert right now. It's tough to say until we get more information exactly around the injury, but we have him around, this Sam Darnold, CJ Stroud kind of area, Terod Taylor. So if you had, Baker Mayfield or Jacoby Briscoe, it would kind of go one of those guys this week. But as always with these questions, it depends what the alternative is.
All right, last one before we get back to our list here. Robo Romo says Tyrod Taylor or JJ McCarthy. I mean, I was kind of a little bit upset with myself last week for not playing more Tyrod Taylor in DFS, just so cheap and he runs. Now, this is a different kind of question where salary cap is not in play. I think the floor on Tyrod's is higher. The AD Mitchell thing certainly helps him. What do you think about this one, Leone Tyrod Taylor or JJ McCarthy?
Yeah. My gut is gonna say Terod Taylor here with just how bad McCarthy's been. But when you look at it a little bit closer, the Jets are dogs in this one with a team total that's actually, a little bit lower than Minnesota. And McCarthy has run a little bit and been able to be a part of the team touchdowns, a bit more than expected relative to his other numbers that can be atrocious. So it's really close. Our projections both have them like 15 and a half fantasy points. Extremely close. I like Terod a little bit better, but
Yeah.
if you're really swinging for upside, McCarthy's probably the one that, just because the Washington secondary is so bad, maybe has a little bit more pure upside.
All right. Let's get back to our list here of sneaky starts for week 14. We've already had Isaac Tesla tonight and the Commanders defense. Let's go to number 3, which is Blake Corum. Now, it is very hard to find sneaky starts at running back at this point in the season. There just aren't a lot of options. What we have seen is series by series rotation going on between Kyron Williams and Blake Corum. We also have Kyron Williams limited this week with an ankle issue. Still expect him to play, but I would just add that as another feather in the cap for Blake Corum. And he's facing Arizona, who continues to just get in these scripts where they're behind, and Jacoby Brissett ends up dropping back 40, 45, 50 times in a game. So I know we had a question earlier from someone, Blake Corum or Tyler Algier. I can kind of consider them the same type of play. You're obviously scraping here. This would only be for deep league or desperate people, but it's hard at running back. Leon, any thoughts on starting these guys, Corum or Algier type backup running backs here?
Yeah, I mean the difficulty is you're hoping whichever one of these backs you start, you're getting into a script where the team is playing from ahead, and as a result, the running back split maybe ends up a little bit closer because the team running back carries are higher, and then you get a better chance at a short yardage touchdown. So, for example, the question between Corum and Algier, similar backs, but Algier is in a tough matchup against Seattle where things could really go bad for that offense, and you could lose those second half rushing attempts from the running back position. That's much less likely to happen for the Rams, who, after they lost in a tough fashion last week, it's a pretty important game for them. So I like Corum a little bit more. And as you said, you're free rolling a little bit on the severity of this Kyron Williams injury. Even if he plays, the split maybe ends up tighter than we've seen in recent weeks.
Number 4 on the list of sneaky starts for week 14 is Adonai Mitchell. And maybe it's not that sneaky after what he did last week, but we've been talking about this guy for like 2 years now as one of the best athletes, one of the best separators. If you look at any of the separation stats, i.e., who is open on the field a lot, AD Mitchell's always there. And he has earned targets. He just has not converted them until last week. Some people are going to say, oh, that was fluky. He's not that good. His quarterback's Tyrod Taylor. I get all that, but he has been a talented guy who would have been a first round pick in the NFL draft if not for some off field stuff. And so I kind of see it like the George Pickens situation, where George Pickens was a great play this offseason because close your eyes, bet on talent, get him away from a bad situation. In AD Mitchell's case, Garrett Wilson is out, which has changed his outlook over the last couple of weeks here as well. And the scenery change, obviously. So I like it still, Leone. Am I being too point chasey here on AD Mitchell against the Dolphins?
I don't think so for a couple of reasons. If you zoom out and you look at AD Mitchell on this season, he's got a 28.1% target per out run, 17.5 ADOT. Both of those numbers are really high, very strong. And you might say, like, well, some of those numbers while he played with the Colts are inflated. He wasn't running full routes and whatnot. But he's kept those numbers up the last 3 weeks with the Jets while his route share went from 61% to 79% to 90%. So if you've got a guy out there who's running 90% of routes, is going to earn targets on a per route basis among some of the best wide receivers in the NFL, even if it drops down some, and is going to get deep shots along with that. And we already know he's very athletic. I'll take my chances with that type of wide receiver. That's, yeah, kind of, you're kicking yourself for not playing Trod Taylor last week. I'm kicking myself a little bit for maybe not being more aggressive, seeing some of these peripheral numbers on AD Mitchell.
All right, let's get back to some questions from the people. RJ from LA says Isaac Tesla or Jaden Higgins. So Jaden Higgins, I think, has established himself as the number two receiver behind Nico Collins for the Texans. The game environment, quarterback play, run pass ratios. I think that all favors Tesla. However, what do you think about this one, Leone? Tesla or Jaden Higgins?
Yeah, we've got them projected pretty close. I'll go Tesla. It's tough because this is the side you might look sillier on because the target floor is lower. But that matchup against Casey is really tough for Houston. I want to take a chance on big plays and touchdowns, and I think Tesla has got a better chance at both of those, even if Jaden
Yeah.
Higgins is more likely to go like 5 for 40 or something.
I mean, the Texans are going to try to win playing defense and, playing conservatively. The Lions cannot win like that against Dallas. Like, they're not going to be able to stop Dallas. And so you see outcomes where it gets way wilder for Tesla. I prefer that. Also, 49er Faithful says, who do you trust more, Kennedy or Tesla? We already answered that one. We went with Tesla. Matthew says, Algier or Corum. We already answered that. We both prefer Corum. eMoney77 says, Tyrod Taylor or Trevor Lawrence. God. I don't think Trevor Lawrence is that good, but he has continued to put up fantasy points reasonably, somewhat due to his rushing ability and not like explosive rushing ability, like running for touchdowns, sneaks, naked bootlegs around the goal line, has helped his fantasy output. I believe we have Trevor Lawrence pretty far clear here in projection. Leonie, what do you think about T-Law this week?
Yeah, we've got Lawrence a couple points clear, and I think that's the right got to go to. I will note, like on his efficiency, it's definitely risen as the season's gone on. It was really bad the first half of the season, but we've seen the yards per attempt kind of get up there. He's had three, yards per attempt games of 7 or higher in his last 3 games. Only had one previous to that. So a lot of the bad stuff was very early in the season. So with the new coach, I'm willing to give him somewhat of a pass. Brian Thomas Jr. is back. They traded for Jacoby Myers. This is kind of a potentially up-tempo matchup with the Colts. So I do like Lawrence.
All right, let's do some rapid fire questions here. Lottie Dottie Da says Kyle Monangai, Pacheco, or Charbonnet. I think that would be Monangai for me as long as he's healthy. Currently dealing with an ankle issue. I do think he's going to play, though. You agree there, Leone Monangai over Pacheco and Charbonnet?
Manon guy.
Shadow Wind says Mike Evans, Egbuka, or Hampton in the flex this week. Well, I don't think Mike Evans is going to be back. Hampton's going to be in a timeshare. I think you got to play Egbuka there. Shadow Wind. France 3180 says Trevor Lawrence, Brissett, or Mariota. Yeah, all this quarterback stuff is going to come down to touchdowns. My gut is I call him Jacoby Briscoe because he's just won me an incredible amount of money over the last 4 weeks. But yeah, what do you think here, Leone? Brissett, Mariota, or T-Law?
I'm going to go T-Law. I'm going to say Brissett turns into a pumpkin this week. We'll go T-Law.
No. Leone
I
is a
know that
noted.
Jaden Daniels got a full practice in. There's some chance I think
Yes.
maybe that he plays.
Yeah, it sounds like Jaden's going to be back. All right, last one before we get back to the list here. E-Money says Chris Rodriguez or Blake Corum. Full PPR, thin and RB2, and need a starter with Henderson on the bye. Chris Rodriguez has established himself as the feature back here. However, still going to see McNichols. We're still going to see JCM. Leone, what do you think about this one? C-Rod or Corum?
C-Rod for me, I think you got to take the lead back here, especially if Jaden Daniels ends up back, which would just boost the entire offense.
Let's get back to our list here for the final two names on sneaky starts ahead of week 14. Number 5, Dalton Kincaid. I think Dalton Kincaid is going to be back here. I'm not certain, but if he is back from his injury here, you absolutely have to play Dalton Kincaid if you need help at tight end due to what's going on with Cincinnati's defense. I mean, I've honestly never seen anything like this where every week it's the same thing. Everybody says you have to play tight end against Cincinnati. You have to and then it hits. Every week it seems to hit. I mean, it's not a narrative at this point, Leone. It's a real thing. They're like purposefully giving, it seems, yards and touchdowns and catches to tight ends. And the Bills are so desperate for weaponry right here. So, yeah, what do you think about Kincaid's chances of playing and any other Buffalo thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, we see a Cincinnati defense that doesn't blitz a ton and they kind of funnel targets underneath. And if you just macro zoom out, that's generally good for the tight end position or the running back position. And they lean a little heavier man, which hurts running back. So a lot of these targets end up going to the running back spot. It seems like it's been for years. So I think it is something structurally with them. And you mentioned it not being a narrative at any point. Our second worst defense we have inflating opposition tight end fantasy points adjusted for opponent is the Colts at 5.5%. The Bengals are almost triple that at 14.4% in our advanced DVP metric on established to run. So
It's
it is
crazy.
the biggest outlier. In fact, I think that is the biggest percentage increase that we have for any defense against any position outside of DST. So very real. The Bills also quite desperate for a
Yeah.
reliable target for Josh Allen.
Very desperate. Let's go to our final name on the list. It is a quarterback and Baker Mayfield. So you start to see Chris Godwin get a little bit healthier. He gets Bucky Irving back also, who can play in the pass game, and I just think helps the overall offense. And then you get Igbuka in a lesser, still prominent, but lesser role, and he's home against the Saints here. So, I know some people have gotten lower on Baker. He's been hurt. He had the shoulder issue. Seems like he is fine for this week. And so, if you need a streamer at quarterback and Baker's out there, I think that is an interesting option. Any more thoughts on this spot for Baker, Leone?
Yeah, we get a really high team total for Tampa Bay this week at 25.5. Again, that, kind of scoring aspect of the position is more important than the pure volume. I think sometimes people get hung up on projected game script. We really want our quarterback contributing to touchdowns. And as you mentioned, with the skill players around him, Baker's got as good a chance as a lot of other quarterbacks to contribute to 3+ touchdowns this week.
Yeah, I should note, just came through the wire. Mike Evans limited in practice today. So, maybe he has a chance to play. Maybe I'll be wrong. I don't think he's going to play. But if Mike Evans comes back, it's even better for Baker Mayfield here against the Saints. All right. Wrap it up here with a few more chats questions before we get out of here. Silent Tiger says Tyrod Taylor or Kirk Cousins. Yeah. That would be Tyrod for me. You have to go to the Russian quarterback, then the pocket sloth with no arm strength. I hate this update says Waller or Ferguson. I think Waller is interesting, but Ferguson as part of this game environment tonight would be the one for me. Any thoughts on that one, Leone? Waller or Ferguson?
Yeah, I think you got to go Ferguson. Just the potential for them playing catch up and him really racking up a ton of catch volume trumps, maybe some of that efficiency upside Waller gives you.
I hate this update says, should I start Debo, Shakir, or Chris Godwin? Don't love any of these options. My first gut would be Shakir, even though I know he dudded last week. That was a very run heavy script for the Bills. Leonie, what do you think? Debo, Shakir, or Godwin?
We have Shakir in full PPR about 1.5 points clear. Also, I keep thinking you're going to tell me a horrific update every time you read that username.
Andrew Leonard says, should I drop Trey Tucker or Alec Pierce to pick up a quarterback since Drake May is out? Well, I would probably drop Trey Tucker.
Yeah.
I think, Leone, do you have a preference there between Tucker or Pierce? I'd have to look at the schedules, but I think I'd drop Tucker. Raiders have a difficult schedule, I believe.
I think Tucker, I've just really been encouraged by the role for Alec Pierce on an offense that we trust way, way more than the Raiders offense.
Abbas Remtula says Quentin Johnston, Isaac Tesla, or Bam Knight. A lot of Tesla questions in here, Leone. Any take on that one? QJ, Tesla, or Bam Knight?
Man, I probably go Bam Knight, assuming Benson's out as we expect. Just the running back touches are tough to pass up even in a bad matchup.
I Smarty says, should I trade Kenneth Walker for Rico Dowdle? I have Javante Williams and Jalen Warren. So there's the question about how much is Chuba Hubbard going to play. I think it's going to be a decent amount. In other words, the split between Walker and Charbonnet to me is going to look similar to the split between Rico and Chuba when they come out of their bye. Now, you might need to start one of these guys this week, in which case you can't trade for Rico Dowdle. I think I'd rather have Walker. Leone, what do you think?
I'd rather have Walker. It seems close, but I'll side with the offense that's been better as a tiebreaker here.
Steel 22554 says Jones or Williams. Well, that's gonna be tough to answer because there's a lot of Joneses and there's a lot of
Let's say Aaron
Williams.
Jones and Javonte Williams.
Aaron Jones and Javonte Williams. Okay. I don't feel good about Aaron Jones at all. Has a shoulder injury and JJ McCarthy. So I would go with Javonte
Same.
there. JWW Webb says Zach Ertz or Darren Waller. These Ertz games, man. I mean, 10 catches for over 100 yards against the Broncos for Ertz. It's too much for me to take. What do you think, Leone? Ertz or Waller?
I think this one's really close. If it's full PPR, go Ertz. If it's like standard, go Waller. I know that's a cop out, but we really have it close.
He's M. Velez needs two out of JMO, Nico Collins, and Waddle. Well, hashtag how rich. Those are three very, very good options. I would probably go JMO and Nico Collins here. Leone, do you agree?
I think you got to go. You got to start Jamison with ARSB out potentially, and this total, and then Nico is a step above Waddle, even in a tough matchup.
Steel 2254 is back. He says Daniel Jones or Caleb Williams. I think that the leg fracture on Daniel Jones matters. Like no designed runs, might not run really at all, Daniel Jones. Caleb Williams' completion percentage has been woeful. I mean, he has missed so many relatively easy throws. They are a 6.5 point dog here, though. Leone, what do you think? Caleb or Dimes?
We've got Dimes pretty clear of Caleb here. It could be extremely cold in Green Bay. I wouldn't be surprised if that total drops and that maybe we don't see a ton of passing even with the negative script. Whereas, we're pretty isolated from that cold weather in Jacksonville in a game that we project to be a little bit more up tempo. I'll take Dimes.
Jay Leist 9 says Goff or Patty Mahomes. So Mahomes has to take on this very good Texans defense. Goff has a very good matchup, but is missing a lot of his weapons. What do you think about that one? Goff or Patty?
We have it close, but favoring Mahomes, and I would side with Mahomes as well, even though the team total and game environment for Goff's insane. Without the weapons, those could be so many rushing touchdowns, and it's just tough for me to bench Mahomes. I know it's a really tough matchup, so I'll side Mahomes. How about you?
Yeah, yeah. I think that the line's going to attempt to go run heavy tonight. So I'll go Patty here also. Last one from Tablations. He says, I hate even asking this, Lamar, Dimes, or Bo Nix. So Lamar is expected to play. Rushing stuff you cannot no longer count on. Man, but like I'm still playing Lamar over these guys. Lamar, Dimes, or Bo Nix. I get it's not great, but I'm still sticking with Lamar. What do you think, Leone?
Yeah, I'm gonna do the same. Team total for them is just as strong as it is for Knicks and company. So I think you'd really want an edge there to go against him.
All right. Let's get back to our list here before we get out of here. Just to recap sneaky starts for week 14. Number one, Isaac Tesla filling in for Amon-Ra St. Brown tonight against the Cowboys. Very good matchup. Commanders defense, they're not very good, but they get to face JJ McCarthy. Blake Corum has been alternating series by series, gets to face Arizona here. A.D. Mitchell as the alpha target, very talented player for the Jets as the number one receiving option. Dalton Kincaid, if he's able to get back in the best possible matchup against the Bengals. And Baker Mayfield with a healthier weaponry around him, another week removed from the shoulder injury and getting a home game here against the Saints. That is going to do it for another edition of the Bleacher Report Fantasy Football Show. Appreciate you all. Appreciate you all being here and hanging out. Good luck in your quest to reach the fantasy football playoffs. For Leone, for everyone behind the scenes of Bleacher Report and everyone behind the scenes at ETR, I am Adam. Good luck, everybody.